Hey, how's it going?
Hello and good morning.
Good.
Not too bad. How are you doing?
I mean, it is
We
Friday.
survived
Yeah,
another week.
survived the week. I tried going golfing before this morning, and then this thunderstorm came in, and I had to put away dishes. So my days, I mean, it's ruined, really.
So were you playing frisbee golf
No,
or actual
actual
golf?
golf. I've kind of transitioned. My disc golf days of being a professional are over. It's reserved for Wednesday night leagues. Is more of a social thing. Now you get more steps in playing golf, and it's a little harder. So it's been my kind of go-to. But I had a really good week. I actually just do you hear that in the background? That's right. It's quiet. It's silence. And you know why? Because my kids are back in school. So they went back to school on Tuesday, and I took Tuesday, Wednesday off. I had some me time, and it was a really good 2 days. A little hard to come back to work, after just spending all day golfing and running and going out, getting some good lunch and things like that. So I've had a really
Rough
great
ride.
week, really.
Well, I'm envious. It's been a busy, but at least thankfully a productive week. And Cubs are doing good. So I mean, knocking off the Brewers quite a few games this week. So
Yeah,
I'll
there you
take it.
go. I had a couple buddies at the last game yesterday. So it's my running group is based out of Chicago, but we have people all over. But there's quite a few people there's a good like a 40-40 of like Cubs and Brewers. So it's always fun to hear the trash talk go on that. But I hear we have another Louisianan. Is that what you call him? A person from Louisiana joining us this week?
One from the backwaters is yes is joining us. Yeah, we have the wonderful Roddy Bergeron, respected school board member.
No, we're a proud and rich people here, Henry Timm. I wouldn't be talking about Louisianians in that manner. We're a very proud people. The best of the cybersecurity world is within like 2 blocks of my house, between me, Bob Miller, Tim Fournette, and a couple of other people. So
I'm not sure what that says about the world.
as I tell people, I'm not even the best cybersecurity person in this house right now. So like,
yeah, you got that dog behind you. I bet that the dog is good at physical security.
that's an Australian Shepherd. They're good at hurting end users.
Yeah. Well, Roddy, we definitely know and love you, but for those who might not be aware, do you want to give us your story here?
I was born on a humid June day, 1984. I'm not gonna give you the actual dates, but Anyways, no, I'm Roddy Bergeron. I'm the cybersecurity technical fellow over at SureWeb. We still don't know what exactly a fellow does or is, but that's my title. So basically, I help our product team, our sales team, and our marketing team align with MSP security needs. So you'll probably see me at most conferences doing talks. I'm not a salesperson, so I don't try to sell you anything. I just try to make sure that we do a little bit better job here in the space. Came from MSP background. Worked at MSP for 8 years building their security program. Worked for a CPA firm, working on an audit team, doing audits of banks and hospitals and other fun stuff. Did some work with Department of Health and Hospitals here in Louisiana, doing some public-private partnerships. So a rich background of fixing problems and bashing my head against the wall.
And now all of that led you to MSP Community Live. So you're welcome.
Yeah, it's a weird road we travel sometimes.
Well, let's go ahead and travel on to our first topic of today, or the first story.
Good segue, Josh. That's a fantastic segue. I love it. It's
what I do. I pride myself.
It's a hard pivot off.
All right. Who owns ticket resolution knowledge-based information? Is it the MSP or the client? A few months ago, our client of ours left to another MSP. That client is specifically asking for an export of all tickets with resolution, which in my opinion, is so they can prop out this new MSP because they're very new in the space and struggling to support them properly. So this begs the question: does the blood, sweat, and tears we gave to resolve all these issues and the info on how you would resolve future similar issues belonging to us or the client, would you charge them for it or say no? How would you handle this? Henry, you start.
Well, hopefully it's already defined in your documentation and contract, but sounds like that's not the case in this instance. So we would provide general ticket history, but not our detailed internal notes. So, and if they're asking for this after they've been with the new company, this would be considered a project and billable.
Roddy, how about you? Are you telling them to pound sand or?
Oh, I wouldn't tell them to pound sand, as the $1 million man Ted DiBiase used to say. Every man's got a price, and that's what we're going to go after this round. So, as Henry alluded to, right, if your agreement doesn't spell it out, it should, right? Like during termination, here's what we hand off. Anything outside of that is billable. So I basically if I had to put my response into an email, it's like, well, hello there, new client. Our billable rate is X amount of dollars per hour. We estimate it to be this much, right? Because exporting all ticket history is I would say it's not a straightforward process, because you're probably going to have some potentially intellectual property inside those ticket notes that you don't want leaked out, or special processes, etc. So like you're going to have to go in and scrub some of those tickets before you put them out there. So it's not just export and send. There's going to be some stuff you're going to want to clean up just to make sure you don't leak any secrets that you don't want a potential rival to have, right? So yeah, I take the same stance as Henry on this. If it's not spelled out post termination, we have nothing else to give you but a project to get your ticket information. How valuable is that information to you? And set a price tag for it. If it's worth $5,000 worth of project work to you, then like we're in agreement and we're going to move forward with it.
I think it also puts forth an interesting, like, how long has passed before they're asking for this information, because we have it written into our agreement so that if a client, after X amount of days, we delete all records of that client, because we don't want to be held liable for that information. So we may not even have it.
Yeah, we used to purge. If they hadn't contacted us in a year, if we hadn't billed them in a year, we usually purged them. If we didn't have to hold on to it for any specific legal reasons, right, or regulatory reasons, we'd purge that information. It's way too dangerous to have stuff laying around from old clients in the event of an accident. So yeah. Also, like, let's talk about the MSP here in a second, right? If this is a recurring problem and you handed over all existing documentation, why wasn't this issue documented too? Right? Like, that's one of the things that we had in our documentation on the MSP side, was like, if this is a recurring or potential recurring issue, like we would document it in our documentation system. So if it's a reference to ticket notes or whatever, it seems like this is a recurring problem and should probably have been documented too. So like, yeah, it's like I used to do like the 90-10 rule here, where it's like 90% of it's probably like ticket history stuff needs to be billed and exported and go through that whole process. But then like 10% of this is like, is this a documentation issue on the MSP side that should have been handled as part of the routine operating procedures you document for a client?
Well, in this though, what I guess what's the line of data that is like the clients versus your internal like IP? Like what I know kind of Henry alluded to it a little bit, but can we expand on that of like, what sort of things are you giving and what do you have that firm stance of like, no, this is our, internal intellectual property that we can't give out?
I mean, again, it should be spelled out in your MSA what you consider your own intellectual property, but like off the top of my head, anything that mentions any kind of internal toolage, right? So like what RMM or automation system or any kind of automated process or any kind of process that's generic across the board that you ran for all your clients, I would consider that intellectual property. Like the client didn't pay you specifically for this. So like there's a thin line there between, especially on a managed service contract where you're not being billed by the hour, you just a flat rate. Like you have to define that in your MSA, because you could technically say that like the client paid you for the time that you worked on this. And if depending on your state or your country, right, what the laws say around who owns that, and usually should be spelled out in an agreement. So, like for instance, anything I work on at ShareWeb during my time, right, when I'm employed here, is considered property of ShareWeb. So if I design a script or write a nice little website or whatever, right, that could potentially become their intellectual property, and I sign off on that as part of my agreement. The same thing, likewise, like the client should have either spelled that out or the MSP should have spelled that out as part of their MSA. But I'd just say anything that I would consider internal documentation or internal systems stuff, I would probably either scrub that out or consider that my own, or any kind of process that would revolve around my own internal systems as part of supporting that process would probably be scrubbed out because it's irrelevant to the client because they can't use my internal systems anymore.
Henry, do you agree with that, or anything you want to add or push back on?
No, I think that's pretty well laid out there. I think that we probably provide a pretty generic view of what was done to resolve things, but that's under the guise that we try to simplify what's reported in billing and ticket history and so forth. We do document everything that was done, but a lot of those go on internal notes and time entries instead. And so our clients typically just see the overall general process and highlights of a ticket rather than all the nitty gritty details. So I would be inclined that we probably would not be providing those nitty gritty details. Yeah, again, it's going to depend also on what the agreement outlined and what the jurisdictional legislation says.
Yeah, talk to an attorney, right? Like if you're ever in doubt and it's getting serious, like you should have some kind of legal representation in your back pocket that you can bounce questions off of. I used to do it all the time. Like we had attorneys, and I'd just be like, "Hey, let me ask you a quick question just to clarify." And if it's very short, like less than, I don't know how most attorneys that you work with bill, but like some of them, if it's like just a quick response or something, they wouldn't bill. But once you start getting into the 5-10 minute realm, like you're gonna get a bill for it, but it could be well worth it to prevent yourself from potentially causing yourself further headaches down the road.
Well, on that note, I mean, let's continue the topic of headaches and transition into the next story here. This one's titled "It's My Turn." This comes to us from the sysadmin subreddit. I did MS updates last night and ended up creating the lifeblood of the company SQL Server. This is the first time in several years that patches were applied. For some reason, the master database corrupted itself, and yeah, things are a mess. So, not really my fault, but since I drove and I pushed the button, it is my fault. Update. As it turns out, the patch that led to the disaster was not pushed by me, but installed earlier in the week by some other administrator that probably accidentally or unknowingly clicked the pop-up in the system tray. So, Microsoft Update broke everything, and now this guy's like, well, now I did it. So clearly it's this guy's fault. I mean, he did push the button, so all the blame is on him, right?
Yeah, a tale as old as time, right? Like Microsoft updates breaking something. Like I feel like this month, I think I read like 4 articles where it's like Microsoft broke, you name it, everything from data streaming to a handful of other things. So it's a constant issue. So I don't know, Henry, you want to kick it off, or you want me to continue rambling?
I think the thing that stood out to me in this thread was that it did not appear that there were backups in place. Like they ran the updates without performing a backup before they ran these system updates. So yes, someone should have been doing updates periodically, at least over the years. But also, like, there's some basic hygiene you should be doing too for reviewing these patches and your process for implementing them.
Yeah.
That could have at least helped with these headaches.
It sounds like this is a mission critical database. So I'm assuming, right, because you have to assume a lot, that there's never a discussion about like how long can this database be down for before it causes us serious issues. Because if it can never be down, right, like then you have to start pricing out what that looks like, and that includes live tests, so like maybe doing a backup or like a live image backup of a server, testing updates, rebooting, etc.
Well, breaking news. I scrolled down in the story. They do have backups. It takes 36 hours to restore. They offload to cloud and the download speed is 5 megabytes.
Fantastic. so testing your backup. Let's segue into that. No, but yeah, I think it goes to a point of like, if this is a very mission critical, like business can't operate because of this system or service, and we have to make sure that we have to be up a certain amount of time per day or per busy hour. Like maybe it could be down all weekend because we only do, we're going to work weekdays or whatever. Like that has to be spelled out, and you have to put the systems in place to like maintain that uptime. So apparently there was no test bed. Apparently people could just install updates by logging into the server, which is another problem, right? Like any administrator who logs in should probably be restricted. So they should probably have some kind of patching system in place that monitors it and does patch windows, etc. I get these kind of things cost money, but again, like this is apparently a mission critical, it can't go down type thing. So you can't always rely on like Microsoft to pre-test their patches in your type of environment. Like they don't have one, so you have to make sure you do that yourself.
Josh, do you just smash install when a new patch has come
absolutely. So, I mean, there's the whole saying too is everyone has a test in a prod environment. The good ones have them separated. But we go off of the 7-day delay. So when they're released, we wait 7 days and we look on Bleeping Computer, Reddit, Discord, other places for, hey, the Windows update broke these things, so let's wait. Or on the flip side, hey, this fixed a really bad 0 day, like we need to up and move it up, right? So we're doing those. But I mean, we've all been in the game like long enough. I guarantee that all of us have forgot to take a snapshot before we did something, and then it broke, and then you're like, oh shit. And then you do that once, maybe twice. And now you're, before you even touch a server, you're like, I'm gonna take a snapshot real quick of this to revert. But I mean, like you guys said too, like updates haven't ran for a year. Like, what were you expecting to happen? Like, these have to be updated. So, yeah, wait for the patch to fix the patch. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, and we all know that SQL is incredibly stable and never has any quirks whatsoever. So.
I mean, is there not, and this might be showing my ignorance of SQL, but is there not some sort of like high availability where you can like do a replication of the database on another server so that way you're able to do,
like round robin clustering or whatever it's called, right? Like there's failover clustering and everything else. Yeah. So different ways you can handle that.
Still got some tech. All right. Well,
and again, it seems like their plan was like single database can never go down. So again, maybe this is time for a discussion of like maybe we should have a cluster or a warm site or the ability to spin up locally, right? Like I don't want to plug products, but like whatever. Name your local image backup provider of choice that you could spin imaging up on. That's like almost instantaneous, and put that in place.
That is a good point on this, is when these things happen, because they are going to happen. It was a matter of time. It was inevitable, right? Like it didn't matter who did it, or Microsoft at some point just is like, enough is enough. We're installing updates, too bad. But when these things happen, like use it as a lessons learned, right? Follow, whatever, like we follow ITIL. So this would be a problem ticket with what's the RCA, what caused it, and then how can we prevent it in the future? And maybe those discussions are, like you said, all right, maybe we need to test a BCP. We need to, look at some redundancy, things like that. So don't just say, oh, I messed up, like my bad. Make a plan after this to make sure. So
the other the other is like, what happens if an attacker gets access and decides to patch so that no one else can backdoor it for them? I mean, that happens. So like, what's your plan there? If a malicious user patches your SQL instance, I guess.
Yep.
Could happen.
It reminds me of where the FBI was going in and patching servers for companies because of the 0-day exposure that was being leveraged.
They tend to do that sometimes.
All right. Well, this next topic here is a little bit near and dear to me, and I thought it'd be some good discussion for us here. So, This poster asked, are MSPs good candidates for ESOPs? Which, if you're not aware of that, it stands for Employee Stock Ownership Plan. They read this book called The Great Game of Business. I have not read that if you guys have, but it's about a large manufacturing firm in the Midwest. I learned all about open book management, and my conclusion is that ESOPs are not good fits for small service firms like MSPs. Are they wrong? I mean, so full transparency and disclosure at Centrix IT, we are a full ESOP, but is this something that you guys are seeing like other MSPs do or take traction? Is this something that you guys, what are your thoughts on this?
I can.
Yeah. It's something that we look at as kind of like for legacy planning for myself, as far as like, how do I leave this business in a way that is beneficial to all those and respectful to all those that work here? And so I like the idea of ESOPs. I think it's a good way of kind of mitigating some of that and giving stock back to those employees who have been with you. The issue I see with a lot of the other alternatives, especially when you're talking about legacy, is that private equity doesn't really care or know about the people that are with that business and have been with that business in the same way that your fellow coworkers would. So it seems to me that a lot of times these roll-ups and private equity firms come in and kind of just gut operation, for their own bottom line rather than caring about the people. And so I think ESOPs are a good way to protect that.
Yeah. So ESOPs, right? So they if you look at it as a fix for your current problems like hiring or profitability, or like my team just doesn't care about my clients, and like, congratulations, you're going to fail. So I guess it depends on your maturity of your MSP, where you're at financially, and like whether or not the owners or stakeholders or whatever in it are willing to not have as much profitability. Because again, they're gonna be ones that are gonna take a cut on profitability in order to make sure that the shares or the stake owners get paid out, right? So if you're constantly turning over employees and you're giving them shares, like, you're gonna be paying out those shares, right? Because if I remember correctly in my brief introduction to ESOPs, right, terminations, what else? Terminations, firings, and hiring, and what was the other one? Disabilities or something like that can sometimes cause those ESOPs to be paid out, right? So you have to be prepared for that, and it's not going to be easy if your MSP is already struggling financially or struggling with employee turnover, or there's low operational maturity. Like, you have to be able to keep people for a long time, and that's tough, right, in the tech space, I find. So it just depends on your MSP. I don't think it's a one size fits all, and I don't believe it's a I don't think it's a fix for things. If people think that it is, like, if I change the way my business operates via the way my employees have ownership in the business, like, it doesn't take much to change that. So, like, you could be operating fine too, and a bad leadership change can cause people to start to peel off, and then you have to go through this hiring process, and that's problematic for people who are, I guess, employee owners or have employee shares. So longevity of employees is critical for this, and one wrong bad move can cause you some problems. But Henry touched on it too, right? Like, if you start getting into private equity or selling later on, like, it may not be, it depends on what your as an owner, what your goals are too. If your goal is to cash out and go live on a beach somewhere, you may want to double think, how you do employee shares.
Yeah, and from my understanding too, just talking to our CEO, like, it wasn't really like super easy to put in place. It's well worth it for what we're doing. His exact quote was, "It's not an easy endeavor, and it requires a small army of specialists to implement and manage. The process takes some time and is not crazy expensive, but it's not cheap either, and there's a lot of nuances to understand." So if there is anybody that is out there, I know in the comments we have one person that is interested in this, please reach out to me. I'll get you in contact with Dylan, because he loves talking about it. And to Roddy's point, I think it is one of those in the tech world, the answer is always it depends, right? Are you starting and growing your MSP just to like try to sell it in 3 to 5 years or something like that? If that's the case, then it doesn't, wouldn't be for you. But if you do have that longevity, the little bit more of operational maturity, that long-term strategy and value, then I think that's where it makes sense. And I know for me, like joining this organization, it was a pretty huge plus for me. Is that was one of my issues previously was I was in, kind of leadership roles and trying to make decisions. And it's like, well, what stake do I have outside of a salary? Like now myself and all of our employees here, we all have ownership stakes. So when we do and what we represent us, it does, make you act a little bit differently, or it makes you, have that accountability because, it's not just a job at that point. Like this is all of our livelihood. So if somebody is pulling the weight, we're very open to having conversations and things like that. So it's led to a really great team chemistry. And we just actually, we were asked by a client and we pulled our statistic, and our average retention for employees is about 7.5 years, which I think is pretty dang good for MSP. So it is not for every MSP, but it is that there are, definitely benefits to it, especially from the employee perspective. So it's an interesting topic, and it is one that I have seen come up more and more, I would say, over the last couple of years. I mean, being in the MSP community for years at this point, like it's really been in the last 2 years that I've seen this ESOP question come up more and more.
That's our friend Brian Rushman over at C Ford in Ohio. I know that they just switched over to an ESOP about a year ago, and it was not an easy process for them, but I know that it was very beneficial for their growth and for kind of the mental attitude of all the employees there. So
perfect. Well,
it is happening.
Cool things to think about. So, all right, enough talking about business. Let's start talking about some robots. Roddy, you're Mr. Security guy, or whatever you said your title was, all things security. So can you tell me what the hell is AI security?
It's easy. Just turn it all off, right? That's it sucks. So I'm kind of confused the question. Like, so what is AI security? It depends, right? Are you vibe coding and you're worried about all the bug or defects? Are you creating agentic AI and exposing your agents to the outside world for anybody to either talk to or email or have some kind of conversation with? Or are you worried about your internal LLM or your co-pilots or whatever giving you fake information, leaking data, etc. Right? Like, there's a couple different, I guess, discussion points around that. So I guess we can break it down piece by piece. So like, let's talk about just your everyday AI that you use. You talk to it and it gives you advice, gives you documents, maybe write some code for you, etc. Right? All right. So I always say treat that type of system, that AI system, like an end user. The access you give to it, the permissions you give to it, need to be restrictive enough, right? You can't give it full access and tell it not to do something. So just like a regular end user, if I give them access to all of the financial data and I say don't ever email this financial data, someone eventually down the path is going to do it, right? So same thing with AI. Soft guardrails are dead. We can't just say like, oh, we put guardrails in AI and tell it not to do X, Y, or Z. Like Black Hat and DEF CON basically just took that upside down and said like hard guardrails, hard permissions, DLP rules, etc. Pretty much the only thing that's going to protect you. Like, don't rely on manufacturers or creators of these chat AI systems to have safeguards that actually work 100% of the time. So DLP, least privilege access, role-based access permissions, not using a singular identity management ID or whatever for all your AI, like breaking that up, just like you would have multiple users or multiple accounts that do multiple different things with like end users. Just basic good hygiene, which we see is lacking. Agentic AI, all right, that's everybody's building AI agents and letting them rule the world. Well, that's also problematic. We've seen zero click abilities of attackers to send crafted emails to agentic AI and have it spit back whole CRM databases. So like, just like an admin interface, just like anyone who has access to data, like you got to put some guardrails in front of that. Like, don't expose your AI to the outside world. If you have to, like if it's a service bot, like you have like a customer service bot, like extremely limit what it has access to before it has to talk to like an actual human to give them information. We just see this constantly fail over and over and over again, especially AI plugins for systems where it's like we saw one where it was like TaskRabbit. So TaskRabbit does GitHub code management, looks for problems, and well, it has read and write access. So guess what happens whenever that AI agent or whatever gets breached or has a problem? Now you got read and write access to GitHub repositories. So like a threat researcher was able to show how they got access to over 1 million GitHub repositories, both public and private, by exploiting a flaw in TaskRabbit. So like, make sure you're limiting permissions, etc. Like if it doesn't need write permissions to everything, limit it to just read permissions or whatever you have to do. And the last one's vibe coding. So like, we're gonna see so many companies, I think, have problems with not doing enough static or dynamic code testing around all this AI code. They're like, it's okay if you're just doing it as a hobby. And like, I wrote one in Claude that basically says like, can I go look at my GitHub repositories I know of and look for known API keys, passwords, etc. Like it took me like 4 hours and I had something that actually kind of worked. But like, if I'm going to make commercial code for this, you still have to run through all the testing processes. You can't let the same, AI that wrote the code test the code too. Like that's dumb. I don't know how else to put it besides that's just dumb. You still need your testing tools. You still need static. You still need some hands-on. Like AI is closing the gap in how much manual work we do in reviewing code, but it's not perfect. AI doesn't understand context. It doesn't understand business use cases. It can mimic the ability to do it, but still doesn't have it. So stop just outright trusting what AI is giving you, and put hard guardrails around what you do with it. And there's nothing magic, right? Like I'm not saying you got to go out and reinvent the wheel on security. It's like basic hygiene 101. It's the same thing we learned when we moved to when everything was cloud and we were like, yeah, throw it in the cloud. It's secure. And then like there's hundreds and thousands of open AWS buckets that like no one was like, yeah, we should probably lock that down to only trusted IPs. They're like, no, it works. And like it's the same thing with AI. It's like it works. We're not worried about security, and then it bites us in the butt. So again, that's a long answer to talk about like what is AI security. It's just don't be dumb with it, I guess. I don't know. That's my hot take.
Don't be dumb, Roddy.
Yeah,
2025.
Yeah, don't do a dumb. Yes,
I do want to drop a resource in the chat. There is a NIST AI RMF playbook that I do highly recommend. It goes through the governance, the mapping, the measure, and the management. Some of the frameworks, especially early on. I mean, AI is still pretty early, so it was all general guidance. Like, oh, like Roddy said, oh, you're exposing something. Well, you shouldn't do that. And then you're like, well, how do I not do that? The actual playbook itself does kind of go through and give guidance on how to, specifically manage that sort of thing. So I definitely highly recommend.
I can't put a message in public chat, but I'll put it in our private chat if you want to share it. MIT has an AI risk register too, a risk repository where you can go in and be like, what's all the risks? And it has a taxonomy on like what risk you should be looking. Oh, excuse me. What risk you should be looking for in AI, etc. So it's a pretty neat little tool I keep in my toolbar.
Perfect. Well, now that Roddy told us how to be secure with AI, let's talk about AI development requests and how we're dealing with them. So, we'll let Henry take, this one, but how are you dealing with the AI development request from your MSP customers? This person's getting asked anywhere from, hey, can you host this AI application a student developed for the cloud and design the whole security architecture and access control? Or can you just create this bot to do XYZ for us? So none of this is obviously covered under our current MSA, but telling them no, like they're just going to drive to somebody who will. Initial feelings are to find a third-party partner to assist with the work, but what should we do? Henry, what are your thoughts on this?
We're doing, our initial reaction was no, just unplug everything and, AI is the devil. But AI is it's just another tool in the toolbox, and it's can be good or bad depending on how it's used. And there are good ways of using it, but we won't approach it with our clients and any development projects or usage internally until they have done the proper um, preparation for implementing AI. So for us, that's mainly centers around data classification and some of the guardrails, additional guardrails that need to be put up. I know we've all seen stories in the cybersecurity realm around AI just being abused and unintentional leakage. Roddy and I were at a talk at DEF CON where like things you don't think about where they had put in guardrails around some of the use for like Copilot. Someone thought of a way of code effectively to emojis and then used emojis from a public side to exploit Copilot. So there's making sure that we've done the data classification, that the client truly understands the risk. Yes, they're still going to try to do things on their own. There's always going to be people that are going to be running off to ChatGPT, Copilot, what have you. We're seeing a big insurgence of things like Lovable and those vibe coding type of implementations. So I think having that education piece is probably the biggest thing that we can be doing right now, both for our clients, but also internally. I know we're playing with a bunch of different platforms right now, just so that we understand what those risks are and how they're used. We have done some project work around AI for our clients, but again, that's only after we've gone through a pretty extensive preparation with them and education process.
Yeah, it's a lot like, what are you going to use AI for? All right, because if I don't know how you're going to use it, I can't protect your use cases. All right, so like I mean, we all know like there's going to be some work that needs to be done, but sometimes clients just don't know, or even partners I talk to, they just don't know what they're going to use it for. They just know they need it. They know they need AI. Like they don't know what they want to use it for yet, and that's problematic because like again, like our whole cybersecurity world is like, how do we protect business use cases and workflows? Like that's essentially what we get down to, and that's part of the problem. Is like, all right, before we even start that first implementation step, we have 26 steps ahead of us that we have to get to first, and that first one's like, what are you going to use it for? And really give me a use case of why this is going to be better than like an automation, an RPA, or even like some kind of machine learning or data lake that you may be able to plug some stuff into and you get some KQL statements to pull data from before we give it to AI, right? Like I think some people have skipped the gap of automation and gone straight from like manual processes to AI and haven't gone through that work of automating a lot of processes. Like I feel like we're still pushing that rock up that hill, and then AI comes along, and it's real weird because Black Hat was. I just told this to a guy right before I hopped on the call. It's weird juxtaposition where like every talk's like you don't have to put AI in everything. We hate it. Stop doing it. And then you walk into and it's vulnerable, and like you walk into the vendor hall and it's like, hey, power your SOC with AI. End 90% of human issues in code application testing with my Vibe Code app tester, and it's this weird push pull between security researchers and like vendors who want to stay on top of the market, which I get it. So I don't know. I'm just ranting at this point. I'm just yelling at clouds.
No, you hit the thoughts exactly
That was,
on it. Is like whenever we say AI, it's like, hold on here. You're probably talking about business automation, and do you have these processes documented? Do you understand, the whole workflow of like how it makes you money, and let's walk through that, and then let's look at how can we automate it, make it more efficient, and maybe AI is the answer into that or some sort of thing. But like you said, there's a lot of groundwork. I mean, Henry said it too. It was like data classification. Like, what point are we introducing risk if we just slap AI on this? Like, are we aware of what that could potentially be exposing to? So AI is the magic buzzword, but it's not like the answer. Right? The answer is really kind of underneath. You peel it back. It's like the old Scooby-Doo cartoons where you pull the mask off and it's like, oh, it's actually, BPA, business process automation. So, but on
Yeah.
on that, let's kind of pivot real quick here too while we're talking about AI. This one here, there's a specific tool, but it is open source. Is anyone using the tool of N8N? Henry, I know you wanted to bring this on. So is this something that you guys are experimenting with or using?
We are. It's interesting to me when you start blending some of these hyper automation platforms, whether that's N8N, Power Automate, what have you, Roost, and you start blending those with some agentic AI. I think that's a whole new world that's going to open to MSPs here, or IT managers in general. That we're just now starting to get a taste of. I know specifically N8N has some stuff listed on their site, and some of the things that were listed in that thread around IT operations, where automating things around help desk, effectively being more proactive with users and issues rather than responding once a user reaches out. So I think that's probably going to be the next big wave here that we see, is a lot of these types of, whether that's this platform or another platform. It feels like you could take some of the agentic stuff with N8N or Power Automate, and since a lot of them integrate, including with your PSAs and RMM right now, like you could probably recreate a lot of the tools that we're utilizing, and a lot of the SOPs and KB stuff that we do to resolve tickets for clients right now.
Yeah, I've heard. I don't know much about N8N, right? Like I've been out of touching technical stuff for about 2 years now. But I know there's a lot of people talking about it. There needs to be more discussion around it. I don't know N8N's business model, right? Like how they make money. But I'd be interested to hear more about that. But I think Henry touched on it. Like I remember one of our first automations we ever wrote in Automate was like, hey, if someone puts a ticket in and they want to install like one of the big three at the time, like Adobe Flash, Adobe Reader, or Java, it was happening all the time because we wouldn't install it by default on machines. Like it's like, hey, take the ticket, make a subcategory, a category and a subcategory, and those tickets hit, or when those categories hit, like a automation script will run in Automate, that'll go and run. And like that to me was like the pinnacle of business automation at the time. It's like, look at us, like we just saved ourselves like 5 minutes or something like that. But now the complexity of it all, right? Like taking a new user onboarding, like white glove type onboarding, and saying like, hey, how do we make this streamlined, even to the point of like picking an Office 365 license based on the user groups they're a part of, or their role in the organization, and everything from doing like SOAR, right? Like this incident happens. Here's our playbook in a JSON format. Like run through it, log all the stuff you're doing, which is extremely important post incident to make sure, especially if you're dealing with insurance or forensics, to like make sure that you documented every single step that you did and you did it right. Like what's like that's I think a huge piece of the MSP puzzle we have to look at, especially as we start to talk about effectiveness versus efficiency, which is a whole argument. We could take up a whole hour of me ranting about people who drive efficiency so much that they mess up effectiveness. And quality of life improvements with your techs. So like, what do they hate to do that's tedious? And like, how can we help improve their quality of life? Because that's a lot of things we don't talk about is on the automation side is what takes up the most time, which is usually the direct response most people do, is like, oh man, this takes us 8 hours to do. Can we reduce that to 5 minutes with automation? But the other part is like techs hate doing certain things because they're tedious or just they suck. So like, can we let a bot who has no emotions, as of today, has no emotions, and let them take on those tedious tasks, right? Bots never call in sick. They never complain. They're never tired. They run 24/7. Like let them do the dumb tasks until they revolt, right? Like mine, this is more AI than automation, right? But like I hate writing KQL statements with a passion and like absolutely despise it. Like it's the one, but like sometimes I have to do it. So I'm just like, let the robot do it. It doesn't hate its life yet. Like let it do it. And then like
Keyword is yet.
like I'm waiting. But like same thing with automation, right? Like you got to take like a couple different approaches. I don't care what tool you use as long as it fits what you need to do. And but like yeah, like I think we're still like having that discussion about AI and how we're trying to push it more to fix business problems, and we haven't even fixed the like effectiveness problems with automation yet. Is still I think we're just putting one piece of technology in front of something that we haven't mastered yet.
Well, it all comes down to is, do you have your processes documented, right? It's really hard to automate a workflow that you don't have documented to miss things.
Yeah, like because like what's the point of a documented process besides a repeatable outcome, right? Like if you have a process and there's a different different outcome every single time, like you don't have a process. You have a, I don't know what would you call it, a quagmire? I don't know, but like that's the whole point. Like,
And that,
yeah. No, I'm done.
Go ahead.
I'm done.
I was going to say is it's kind of like the next evolution of where we saw people selling templates for SOPs or SOP libraries. Is like now we're seeing that in this automation phase now of people selling either Roost or Power Automate or whatever your insert platform here, automations and workflows that way. But I think where we're headed is people are going to be selling not just this, but the agentic agents that they've built out with, specialized rags and so forth that cater to the MSP world. And then probably from there, we get to a place where there's not going to be a PSA or an RMM. It'll all be kind of self-contained in one software solution. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the industry adjusts to that, because that's going to change a lot for MSPs.
But Henry, will the software solution have AI? That's all I care about.
Let's go to our last story here, which I mean, this is just perfect way to wrap it up here. We're just going to talk about just hard truths of IT and what did we miss. So some people are passionate about IT. This is annoying. There's nothing you can do about it. Staying loyal to your company is mandatory for career advancement. People who job hop are disloyal and should be socially ostracized. Your manager, they care deeply about you and how you do your work. Make sure to trap them in the break room and go over everything in detail, even if you aren't sure you're right. If you want to avoid burnout, just push work onto your coworkers. You won't get burned out. Do this every opportunity. Overachieving and high productive coworkers, also known as hotshots, are going to be frustrating to deal with. Luckily, they often help themselves to your work. Allow them to do so. Plus, the more they work, the less you have to deal with them. They'll be gone in a couple years anyway. There was a word that describes companies that gamble on new employees. Suckers. Take advantage wherever you can and stay with the company for as long as possible. If it helps, you can seduce your boss's 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 boss or Carol in HR. And all of that said, it's not always about what you can do. A lot of the time, it's about what you can convince someone you can do. Soft skills are more valuable than IT skills. Don't get me wrong, you have to be competent, but the amount of people I've seen get by with soft skills convinced me of this. Guys can go years giving BS explanations on why things haven't been done yet, smooth other people, and do not press them about issues. Use empty speak that sounds good, but they're not really saying anything. We need to learn these skills. And if you sound cool while describing these issues or solutions, they might sleep with you. Lastly, always DNS. So what did we miss there? I mean, that's
That's a great read.
I don't know which ones he's being sarcastic
yeah.
about, or they are being sarcastic about, and which ones are truths. Because like, there's a mix in there of like, hey, like being able to communicate with people and making text sound cool. Like, that's a real skill. Like, you can't sit there and bore them with like the new features of your new Sonic wall or whatever that just came out. Like, that's like, but if you can make it sound cool, yeah, that's part of the job. But then like saying that you have to be loyal, like that's a management problem. So again, like it's hard to read that list of statements and understand what's real and which ones are sarcastic. You know,
some of them are just uncomfortable, that because I know that they're true.
Like, yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
The soft skill one, like I absolutely have seen people that
here's a hard truth. I'll put one out there. If you're really good at tech, you're going to be really good at management. So we should fire a technical people who are good at it. Hands down, that's a problem. And I see it a lot. It's like, this guy's been with us 6 years. He's really knows how to install. He's been our engineer, and he's moved up through the 8 people. Why would you put him in charge of people? And like, I see that. Not to say that you can't do it, but like, management is not a job promotion for some people, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be seen as a job promotion. So that's and coming from someone who was technical, who moved into management, like, yes, but that's not a promotion for some people, and it should never be. That's my hot take.
Nope, it's a good one. So always glad
the whole MSPs are great marketers and salespeople.
Yep. That is probably one of the best shitty sysadmin posts I've seen. So it was a great job on that.
Yeah, I mean,
all right. Well, that brings us to the end.
It's always a fun one.
I
want to know what happened at their MSP. I want to know what happened at their MSP, because like, or their IT company, their department, because that sounds like a place I would just like look at through like a series of glass, like in a fishbowl situation, like just look and see what's going on, because it sounds fun.
Maury Povich show.
Like, we could make that into a reality TV, like MSP After Dark or something like that. I like a Love Island meets IT department situation is what I'm thinking. On that note,
all right. Well,
we should end the show before we get in trouble.
The Love Boat edition. All right. Well, let's look at it.
Email from Ray.
Let's look at what upcoming events we have. Noticeably, the lack of any Love Boat MSP channel events. So we have Matt Topper in the Land of the Down Under right now going on, IT Nation Connect in Sydney. We have Can It Con, Canadian IT Convention.
I'll be there.
September 7th through 9th. Immediately following that, you can go down to Channel Pro Live down in Atlanta. We have ASCII Edge in Dallas. We have a special edition of the Tech Bar, the only MSP Media Network show I haven't been on. So I'm crossing that off on September 18th. ScaleCon in the 25th, 27th. And as always, the last Friday of every month, we have IR games. So this month, that is the MSP focused one. Your worst day. So please come and check that out if you're an MSP. So Roddy, thank you for joining us. That was a blast. I was super excited when Henry said you were coming on. Anything you would like to plug, sir? The floor is yours.
I'll be making my rounds as usual. So I'll be at Can IT Con, trying to squeeze into DattoCon. But Bob Miller and I are talking about doing an IR game after the I don't want to beat up Ingram Micro too much, but like, what happens whenever your vendor gets compromised, and how do you pivot from it based on like from a cloud distributor standpoint, right? So we've been talking about building an IR game around that. So like, should be an interesting one about GDAP permissions and some stuff I uncovered during that process that we could put into an actual scenario. But yeah, I'll be out and about. If you see me at Can IT Con or anywhere in Canada, I'll be there a lot in the next few months. So we should hang out, get some poutine.
Do you guys put gumbo on your poutine in Louisiana?
You know, we try not to make abominations with our cultural foods, but like somebody, like all things being equal, somebody's doing it. I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah, it actually doesn't sound like a terrible combination. I know it'd be an abomination, but gumbo poutine, like I'd do that. I'd eat it.
Oh yeah.
I think I'd probably actually go seafood boil poutine first, but
Y'all are there's a bunch of angry Canadians right now. Just you're not Canadian customs is not letting you guys through. You're on a list. You've
Sorry.
insulted their national food too many times in this episode.
You know, it happens. It wouldn't be the first time. We did a music podcast where we
would be the first time we called an international incident on camera. So like
on the music podcast we were talking about Our Lady Peace, which is a Canadian treasure, and you know, went down the line of that. So, you know, I love my friends in Canada. So hopefully one day I'll get up there. But all right, well, that's we got to end this here before we, before we go too far off the rails. Thanks everyone
really
for tuning in, and we will see you guys next Friday.
have a great weekend.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.